On this edition of Native Report, we view the infrared photography of Erv Schleufer.
We visit the Spokane, Washington American Indian Community Center.
And we attend the National Congress of American Indians Mid-Year Conference. We also learn something new about healthy living and hear from our elders on this edition of Native Report.
Production of Native Report is made possible by grants from the Shakopee-Mdewakanton Sioux community, the Blandin Foundation, and the Duluth Superior Area Community Foundation.
Welcome to Native Report. I'm Rita Aspinwall.
And I'm Ernie Stevens. Photographer Erv Schleufer specializes in what is known as infrared photography. He views what he does as a hobby, but this is more than that. And the photographs he takes are extraordinary.
A most remarkable photography exhibit at the Northwest Museum of Arts and Culture is unlike any other that the museum has had before it. What makes this so special is not what can be seen with the naked eye, but what cannot be seen in ordinary sunlight.
I was curious to see what the invisible world looked like. I got a tribal check, I think, when I was about in 7th grade. $450, I think it was. And so I bought a little Polaroid camera, and I still have some of the pictures at home. As years went by, I just, had junk cameras here and there. And over 20 years ago, I got my first real good camera. In the spring of 2013, I started looking into infrared conversions for cameras. So that July, it'll be 3 years ago, there was a powwow over in Post Falls. I tried to imagine what this regalia would look like in infrared, and I couldn't. I just couldn't wrap my mind around it. I'd looked at infrared for a long time. I'd done some film stuff, some over 20 years ago, and it was very difficult to do, and the results were kind of spotty, but it was still really neat. I went over there and shot about 800 pictures the first day and took them home, and about the 40th picture in, I saw this picture of this little boy, and right then I realized that I was onto something that I had never seen before. This was way beyond anything that I had imagined. One of the things I noticed right from the beginning is kids, their skin is so much thinner that they get out in the bright sunlight, and this infrared makes them glow, kind of like a wick down inside of a candle. They don't have just a white color like this wall. They have this translucent look to them. You'll notice that the sun is coming up here, and all of this fringe is white, but the stuff in the shadows turn blue.
For those who are unfamiliar with infrared photography, it is a special type of photography which uses film or sensors sensitive to infrared light. The digital sensor in Erv's camera captures what is beyond the visible spectrum. The images appear spectral, having an almost ghost-like quality. Erv's exhibit is entitled "The Light We Cannot See."
To me, the draw with it is seeing what's in the invisible world. It's normal for me to shoot in 90 minutes, somewhere around 1,000 pictures. I went over to experiment at the July Amish powwow, and that helped open up a door of getting to know so many people. One guy over here in this one picture, there was the last powwow he danced before he passed away. I'm still kind of beside myself about having all this here at the museum, but I still can't compare my experience to how the family must feel about, seeing something like this.
Another way to achieve the infrared effect is through the use of a filter placed over the flash. Erv does do other photography in addition to powwows. However, one thing is certain. Erv has become very knowledgeable about his craft. Yet, even then, he doesn't label what he does as professional.
I did some shoots in the shade where there were some powwows and stuff, and even though there was a lot of bright sunlight coming in from the open walls, the infrared just didn't glow like it would out in the direct sun. And so I thought, well, I need to enhance that light, and did some research and found out that the flash on my camera produces a lot of infrared light. But then the first thought was, I can't go to a powwow and hit these people with hundreds of flashes. I mean, that just wouldn't be right. And then got thinking, if the internal filter in my camera can block the visible light getting to the sensor, why can't I block the visible light coming out of the flash? I read a story about a guy that did that picture of all these kids in a movie theater, and they're wearing the 3D glasses. And I always thought that picture was illuminated because of the light coming off of the theater screen. But he had figured out how to make some kind of a translucent infrared paint for his light bulbs, and he dipped his light bulbs in this to block all the visible light, and he went in that movie theater and shot that infrared flash picture, and of course, being infrared, nobody saw the flash. It's been around a long time, so I never went into this thinking that, I invented something. I'm just kind of discovering as I go along. This is really weighed heavily over on one side with technology, with a digital camera, with the infrared conversion in the computers and all the software and stuff. And yeah, you got to go out there and point the camera. When you go to these powwows, it's kind of hard to take a bad picture there to begin with. I don't really feel comfortable when people call me a professional, because usually professionals go to school. So me and school just never jived ever since I was a little kid. So all this stuff I've done on my own. But when you start looking at it like I'm a native, playing with infrared photography, doing a powwow, and making this invisible flash for my camera, it's pretty hard to find somebody else who's doing that.
I'm Dr. Arnie Vainio, and today we're talking about opiates. Opiates are a class of drug commonly used to treat pain and are also narcotics. The word narcotic is from the Greek word narkotikos, which means make numb. Narcotics also include sleeping pills, alcohol, and anything that can cause addiction. Prescription opiates are medicines such as hydrocodone, Norco, Vicodin, Lortabs, oxycodone, OxyContin, morphine, Dilaudid, Demerol, and others. Certain illegal drugs such as heroin are also opiates. We are in the middle of an opiate overdose epidemic right now. And by we, I mean the whole world. So how does a person get addicted to opiates? Sometimes these drugs are prescribed for short-term pain relief after an injury or surgery. The longer you use opiates, the less they actually relieve your pain, and also the pain can become worse. Dependence happens when the body gets used to having opiates in the system, and stopping or decreasing them causes withdrawal symptoms, which makes it really difficult to stop taking opiates. Withdrawal symptoms from opiates are pretty awful and include muscle aches and pains, abdominal cramping, nausea, runny nose, tearing, sweating, vomiting, and diarrhea, and can last from anywhere from a week to a month. The emotional symptoms of anxiety, agitation, insomnia, and fatigue can last for more than a month after stopping high doses of opiates. So how do you know if someone is addicted? When the use of opiates interferes with daily life and the person has uncontrollable cravings for them and cannot stop, even though using opiates is having negative effects on personal relationships, work, or finances, there's a problem. It's estimated that about 4.3 million Americans are non-medical users of narcotic pain relievers and are taking narcotics not prescribed to them. The number of overdoses has more than quadrupled since 1999. We are seeing more and more babies being born to mothers using opiates. Watching a baby go through withdrawal is heartbreaking and can cause families to be separated. There are treatment programs available and medicines to help people get off opiates. Support groups are important, and constant vigilance is essential. Addictions will lie in wait for people, and sliding back into them can happen fast. How long has it been since there was an overdose in your community? This is destroying us as a people and on a national level. You were put here for a reason. Help is available to help you get back on the path you were meant to be on. It doesn't have to be this way, and we need all of us clean and sober to raise our children. Remember to call an elder. They've been waiting for your call. I'm Dr. Arnie Vainio, and this is Health Matters.
The American Indian Community Center of Spokane, Washington has been helping the urban Native American community and non-Native families for well over 30 years. They do so by providing a gathering place dedicated to delivering culturally competent social, economic, and educational services.
The city of Spokane, Washington is home to well over 12,000 urban-based Native Americans representing 234 tribes from across Indian country. To meet the needs of those individuals, the American Indian Community Center of Spokane has been there to assist the community in a number of ways.
Originally it was kind of like the gathering place for natives in the city, and it still is. People come here, they hang out, they socialize, they know where the Indian Center is, they feel comfortable here. And I just couldn't imagine a place without it, without an Indian Center. Where would they go? They don't like to go to, I'm speaking of native, mostly urban natives, they just don't like to go to other places where, for some reason they just don't feel comfortable. We serve urban Native Americans here in the city. A lot of natives are traveling, mobile, they're coming and going. Studies show that urban Indians are probably the largest, most invisible group of Indians, natives in the country. And a lot of people come in and you could see it, the cultural trauma has carried over for so many generations that they are feel kind of, they're disconnected, especially with their culture, with their community, and so they come here because they feel that connection. A lot of the employees here have been here for a long time, We probably got about 16, maybe 15 and a half, something like that. 3 of them are full-time, the rest are mostly part-time.
The center caters to both the Native and non-Native communities, and it is more than a meeting place. There are a number of social service programs that can be accessed Monday through Friday.
Well, let's see, we got WIOA, we got the workforce, we got family services, we got a visitation program, we got an Indian Child Welfare Coordinator position, food bank, protective payee, general assistance. We work, and the lady from the Bureau just happens to be here today. But we got a person that kind of helps general assistance, applicants. We got the senior lunch. Food bank is another big program that United Way kind of covers the space costs, some of the employment, percentage of the employment people there. And that's open to certain zip code 99202, where we moved from downtown. Looked at an A&A grant, and I thought, let's do a community technology center. And basically what it is just a computer lab, but we gave it a kind of a fancy name, and that was the terms that was kind of going around, was community technology center. So we wrote, and we got funded. We got funded that year in 2009. We got 15 workstations, all new computer. We got everything new. There was 3 positions out of it, program director, we had an IT instructor, and then an admin assistant. And it's still running today. Our computers are from 2009, so they're getting up there, but they still work, they still operate. It's been a real valuable asset to the community. People use it regularly, every day. And a lot of the guys just come in, they get on Facebook and sit there. But there's folks that come in and they look for work. And that's what the Indian Center is all about, is putting Indians to work.
While Lux and his staff do what they can with the means they have to help others, they're always looking at how they can better help Spokane's urban Native American community.
Most of the real hard to serve natives that come in are in some kind of crisis already. So we just try to stem that crisis and somehow, get them some kind of service. They don't leave here without getting some kind of help. We coordinate a lot with some of the other agencies like Native Project, Native Health primarily, because a lot of the natives go there are homeless, and so they use this as an address. And homelessness is really huge right now. So we kicked it around in one of our meetings. I said, here's an idea. Let's go back to the table. Let's go back to the planning process. Let's develop a comprehensive plan for housing for urban-based natives. We're a real strong, progressive people. We're educated. We have our leaders. We have our cultural leaders, and we're in this whole thing together. Don't leave us out. We're not invisible. We're here to, we're struggling. We're in the same boat. So if you don't want to partner with us, then at least support us in some way. There's a lot of natives here that are smart. They're educated. They know their people. They know how to. They know what it takes to serve our people.
I really appreciated the people talking about the bare ears, sacred site. Sacred sites, many of the tribes don't like to identify them because then they become tourist attractions. However, decisions need to be made on how to protect them, and a lot of times we have to strategize and work with partners to do that. And that's what we hope to do with our allotments. Now, there's a huge monument there that acknowledges the Fort Harney military officers and barely mentions our people. But our people occupied that land, and we were a great nation at times. And now we were all torn apart, set to other reservations, Fort Klamath, the one at Warm Springs, Fort Harney, Fort Bidwell, all of these, and you know, by the name of the forts, that's the military presence there. This was acts of war, and a lot of our people were murdered and kidnapped, and for the benefit of the settlers coming in.
The National Congress of American Indians is the oldest, largest, and most representative American Indian and Alaskan Native advocacy organization. Join us now as we attend the 2016 NCAI Mid-Year Conference in Marketplace, held in Spokane, Washington.
But the tribal leaders said, we feel strongly we're ready to do this. We need to keep our own deadlines. We need to take ourselves.
Over 1,000 tribal leaders, officials, and other representatives from across Indian country were on hand for the 2016 National Congress of American Indians Mid-Year Conference at the Spokane Convention Center. From 1944 to the modern era, NCAI has been a leading force and voice in protecting tribal sovereignty.
73 years ago, our elders dreamed of a day like this when tribes from across the nation would continue to come together with one voice to work on common issues that affect each and every one of us on a daily basis. Even though we may be 567 sovereigns, and we might be sovereigns that are state recognized, that are part of our organization, at the end of the day, our issues are still the same. You know, we have healthcare issues and economic development issues, we have treaty rights issues, we have funding issues. So even though 567 of us are sovereigns, at the end of the day, speaking with one voice in Washington, D.C., working on the same issues, with the same goals is what we are all about here at NCAI. The 200 to 300 tribes that come to our organization and participate in the work that we do, even though we don't have 567 nations, we do not speak for any one tribe. NCAI does not speak for any tribe. I do not speak for any tribe. But the work that we do, we advocate on behalf of 567 tribes, because at the end of the day, when you look at all the bills that we're able to pass, all the legislation we're able to pass, all of the rules and regulations that agencies change to positively impact Indian country is having an effect on all 567 nations when it comes to getting increases in funding, when it comes to having access and having DC hear us. That affects all 567 nations. There are various reasons why not all of the 567 tribes are able to participate. For example, you know, the largest group of tribes in the U.S. resides in one state, that's Alaska. Just about half the tribes in the nation reside up there. And as you can imagine, some of those villages are very small, some of those villages are very poor, and their opportunity to participate and come here is very, very limited because of the travel factor.
This is the smaller of two conferences held annually by NCAI. Breakout sessions for the mid-year conference covered issues such as protecting sacred sites, tribal homeland security, and strengthening the Indian Child Welfare Act, plus many others. Native youth also have a place at the conference.
I shared with them how important it is for them to get their education. That is the key. I let them know to breaking historic trauma. All of us are still plagued with historical trauma that was inflicted upon us by the federal government's policy in the 1800s of the only good Indian is a dead Indian, to that evolved to General George Pratt's initiative of kill the Indian, save the man. And so we're still living under those harmful historical trauma in even our grandkids' generation. So my message to them is to break that historical trauma through education, become productive members of society, make good choices, get a good education, and break that cycle of historical trauma to where we're not having to live it in our lives, but we're only going to be reading about it in the history books.
As president of such a large organization, President Clattersby is often sought out by many who seek an audience with him. He also understands the importance of reaching out to the non-native population and developing strong working relationships.
It's a great responsibility. I'm only allowed to do it by the grace of God, and to be able to travel around the nation to different communities and to different conferences to represent NCAI, going back to DC to meet with the president, to meet with his cabinet, to meet with senators, to meet with congressmen, to meet with agency heads is a wonderful opportunity, and got three priorities in life. Serving God, serving my family, and serving my community. And my community has increased by 567 nations in the last 2 years. And so I am very grounded, very, very grounded in my faith in my Creator, and instilled in me at a very young age by my grandfather. You know, we're still here. And we are 21st century, the majority of us are 21st century governments whose infrastructure is second to none. We are becoming very, very serious, productive members of society, becoming those economic engines that our grandparents hoped that we would be. And we are employing people, we're paying wages, we are paying benefits. We're not going to go anywhere. We are here to stay. Get to know us. learn about us. And if the people would really speak out and encourage the government, the schools, whoever, to have a true reflection of the history of the treatment of Native Americans, I think that would go a long way for people to understand who we are and what we're about. We're in our 73rd year of existence, and I'm the 21st president of this organization, and I got the greatest job in the world.
For more information about Native Report or the stories we've covered, look for us on the web at nativereport.org, on Facebook, and on Twitter. Thank you for spending this time with your friends and neighbors in Indian Country. I'm Rita Aspinwall.
And I'm Ernie Stevens. We'll see you next time on Native Report.
Rita Aspinwall is an enrolled member of the Fond du Lac Band of Lake Superior, Chippewa, and is an ICWA social worker with Fond du Lac Social Services. Ernie Stevens is a member of the Oneida Nation of Wisconsin and is a film and television producer. Production of Native Report is made possible by grants from the Shakopee-Mdewakanton Sioux community, the Blandin Foundation, and the Duluth Superior Area Community Foundation.